तस्यात् प्रतर्क्य विभवस्य महेश्वरस्य पादौ नमामि नयनामृतलक्ष्मणस्य देवस्य यस्य महता.
Suffused with the beauty and fragrance of devotion, these verses from the Guru Stuti are dedicated to the great master of Kashmir Shaivism, Ishwar Swarup Swami Lakshman Ji. Composed by Acharya Rameshwar Jha, a scholar of great reputation, this hymn echoes the sentiments of all those who have experienced Swami Lakshman Ji's grace and presence. Swamiji embodied in his person the splendor of the non-dualistic tradition of Kashmir Shaivism, a philosophy that goes back in mythological times to sage Durvasa and his mind-born sons. His lineage can be traced back to the great Shaiv masters who traversed the breathtakingly beautiful valley of Kashmir. Starting with Vasugupta, the seer to whom the Shiv Sutras were revealed in the 9th century at Shankarpal, to Somanand, Utpaldev and Lakshman Gupta. From the likes of Abhinav Gupta and Kshemaraj, to Yograj, Jairath and Shivopadhyay. And then, nearer our times, from Mankak Monga and Ramji to Mehtab Kak, and finally our revered Swami Lakshman Ji, the greatest exponent of this tradition in the 20th century. The legacy that the preceding masters bequeathed to Swamiji consisted of a worldview having its roots in the tantric vision of reality. Shaped by the great Abhinav Gupta, this philosophical system rejects the otherness of God and perceives the ultimate reality in terms of a universal consciousness that vibrates in every atom of the universe. It is, in a sense, a life-affirmative philosophy that sees the world as a manifestation of the blissful energy of one all-pervading light. Not only does Shiva pervade everything, but is everything, from a blade of grass to Param Shiva. Many were the similarities Swamiji shared with Abhinav Gupta, interpreting his thoughts to the modern world in a manner none had done before. Most importantly, he brought out Kashmir Shaivism from the confines of an ever-narrowing circle of the initiated few to humanity as a whole. The downtown locality of Namchibal, Srinagar, has undergone many changes over the last century, but it still retains its ambience and the old world charm. Even the house of Swamiji, now in the hands of a Muslim family, does not seem to have undergone much renovation. In fact, the room in which Swamiji was born on May 9, 1907, remains very much the same. One can well imagine the joy of a newborn child in a house. But Swami Ramju, a great Shaivite master and Lakshman's first guru, knew better. Apparently, dancing with joy, he sang these lines. What is surprising is that Swami Ram danced even though he had apparently lost the use of his legs to long hours of meditation. Even today, several old residents of the locality still fondly remember his parents, especially Pandit Narayan Das Raina for his philanthropy and entrepreneurship. Besides owning a lot of landed property and a carpet factory, it was Pandit Narayan Das who introduced houseboats in Kashmir for the first time. Coming to Swamiji's childhood, it soon became evident that Lakshman was a bit different. A precocious child, if one could call him that, with a marked inclination towards spirituality. At 3, he used to make shivlings out of clay. And at 5, he would sit in meditation and go into a trance, fainting every now and then.
Every few days, they carried me to their master, Swami Ram, for treatment. They thought that I was going in hysterical mood, hysteria, because I fainted every now and then, and afterwards.
You fainted constantly then after that experience?
Constantly, after I took meals,
you would faint.
The meals were finished, I fainted.
I see.
I took tea, the meals were finished, the tea was finished, I fainted. I didn't know what was happening to me.
Lakshman's sacred thread ceremony was performed along with that of his brothers when he was about 9 years old. However, Lakshman's spiritual training had begun much earlier, under the guidance of his elder brother, Maheshwar Nath.
Söz gatan Ramjes yatka mara ko me kya için boznuyor. Ya mi seni bozna me kya go. Dalas içe yeter ya haçımız bulan. Yana çunu mümkün değil belini çadarsın. Onun moçanarcız. Manas Ramjes. Dalas melini darsın çavuncan. Yeçimiz buruzan mı? Dalas telegas mı marun mu? Dalas beyzan mı meli?
And once he fell sick, very sick, and my father asked my master to come down and to make him all right by grace. And he came down, my master, from his ashram, and he sat before him. He was on bed, lying on bed, and my master began to do his action. My brother told him, "Oh, don't do this, please. Don't make me all right. Only in case I find the real truth in my near future, then make me all right. Otherwise, there is no interest."
Pata lash piyamı saçıtı. Patka maaşı dana sıkar çakmadan. Dana siyah çamiyacı muğdu. Dana sıçıydı. İçi pop. Bal bahalay başa toş kayçı. Bal brazat fendiyen mesit. Bahalay başa toş kayçı. Dana samama teyni tut. Sos fadan biçer. Dana içi pop. Sıçı başa toş gomut bakvalası.
His wish did come true. It was at the young age of 28 that Pandit Maheshwarnath died. Just 45 days after his demise, Swami Ramju too passed away. The year was 1915. Swami Ramju's Mahasamadhi was a great loss to the Raina family and his followers in general. A great master in the theory and practice of Kashmir Shaivagams, Swami Ramju's primary concern was the progress of Lakshman in his formative years. Today, his ashram at Fateh Kadal serves as a memorial to this great master of Shaivite philosophy.
School days में he would more attend to his own meditation and भगवान की याद उनको ज़्यादा इंटरेस्ट में रखती थी, उतना ध्यान स्टडीज़ में नहीं था. उनका तो goal was different, his program was different. Maybe it was just spending some time till he would slightly grow. Goal तो अलग ही रहा है ना, लेकिन पढ़ाई में अच्छे थे. Which you can आप खुद देख सकते हैं कि कितना ही sea of knowledge. किसी डिटेल में आप जाइए, कोई सवाल पूछिए, कोई जवाब सुनिए.
Tekerimiz kazandı hay sokul. Sokuluz mazot prem karar. Lakçar paठ होती थी. Sokuluz kazandı asan paఠet. Taço sabas karar. Diyor lakuros çapray sosuz khanke thanan dediniz.
Once, his teacher inflicted 25 cane strokes on him for singing bhajans in the class, but the move boomeranged as the teacher fell ill for the same number of days. Realizing that his interest lay elsewhere, Lakshman's parents started thinking about getting him married. But Lakshman would have none of it.
In my youth, they were planning to marry me. I said, no, I am not going to marry. I am married to God. I am married to bigger than the biggest. I am married to him. I want him to be with me. He is my husband. So I refused.
One day, when Lakshman heard his father recite a verse from Utpal Dev's Shiv Stotravali, he was so deeply moved that he insisted on someone translating it for him. The choice automatically fell on Swami Mehtab Kak, originally chosen by Swami Ramju for honing Lakshman's spiritual faculties after his demise.
Then they made their minds to ask Swami Mehtab Kak. She said, Swami Mehtab Kak won't come here to teach you because he does not move from his room. I said, I will go. Fix with him and I will go. Then my father went to him and requested him if Lakshman wants to read that the songs of Utpal Deva with you, would you accept him as your disciple? He said, sure. Ask him to come here, come to me.
And so began Lakshman's apprenticeship under Swami Mehtab Kak. After 2 years of intense practice, Swami Mehtab Kak took Lakshman Ju to the nearby shrine of Mangaleshwar Bhairav, one of the 8 protected deities guarding Kashmir. It was here, surrounded by the sacred mulberry tree, dabbled with vermilion, that Lakshman's initiation happened. He was just 17. Interestingly, Lakshman Ju proved so diligent in his yogic practices that he acquired what might have taken others years to accomplish in just a month. Thus began his new dilemma.
Then, after some time, I asked him, something came in my mind that I want to sit alone. I don't want to sit in householders. I asked him, will you ask my father to give me a small room separately. There is so land. On secluded corner of that land, he could construct a small room for me. I would meditate all the time.
Swami Mehtab Kak did meet Pandit Narayan Das with the request. But when 1 month passed and the promised room nowhere in sight, Lakshman Ju decided to heed his inner call. One morning, he quietly slipped away from his house with just a few clothes and some bedding.
Smanasal Jan Brad Livan, 20 ways. So Slivan Brad or what? Pani Herki. And then a Scott Gasak. Then a Bagatay Mathab Kakastis. Chatpur. Then as we get then as Mishta and never came. Bas, maybe government come out, Chetri had answers cat. It's all up with you. What you? Support.
Yet even in his flight for spiritual attainment, Lakshman Ju couldn't bear to hurt his family. He wrote, "Dear brothers, I'm leaving for meditation. Kindly take care of our parents." The other letter addressed to his father read, "My dear father, I'm leaving in search of the Supreme. Please forgive me." Although Lakshman Ju had initially intended escaping to the forests of Sadhu Ganga, he had to break his journey in Sopore, where he was spotted.
Once you inside, you are the guy my child gave inside. Got Kakan report. So Dinanath Patel. There was it cages, Palan Lord, and it's much rather never. I got Sopore to the Katan ball. Bas Kuruk Ban Sopore. Sopore did the Kasan Brogas. Patalomuk Sopore, that just the Kakas Matamal, Ganj. Tami was Rotmut, Sudar Ganj. Tami was Rotmut, Tami was Garanumut. But you go side one. Side is the side. That you think we took. The last I come to, but I don't know. Let's go and make a fat visual. It's the last we got her. The last gas because check me on machine, maybe you shouldn't go away. Make permission, make it not go away. But he might be thinking side kindness. Jan dryas, they don't know what gas. Made the next hour at the travel. Chinera and was charging his watch went out. Dry side is thinking kindness. Butkorun Labikun, side is the corner crow. Mind that they are tight. None as much got in Southern Island. Guys, Southern Island.
Lakshman Ju did return, but only at Swami Mehtab Kak and his mother's insistence, and that too to Chandpura, near the Guru's ashram. Although Chandpura today wears a deserted look since the outbreak of terrorism, It was here that Lakshman Ji finally immersed himself in his meditative practices. Today, the ancient Bhuvaneshwari temple and the once beautiful Ragna Devi temple are probably the only links to its once tranquil past. Somehow the lure of Sadhu Ganga proved too strong for him, and this time he left for the place with the permission of his master. Perched on the slope of a mountain, Sadhu Ganga, as the name suggests, was frequented by ascetics in search of tranquility. Legend has it that a saint once brought Ganga to this place for his salvation. It was at Sadhu Ganga that Swamiji experienced for the first time Chit Kundalini. He was sitting when it was aroused, and he felt overwhelmed by the enormity of the experience. Sadhu Ganga barely resembles the haven it once was. The wooden shrine that many frequented once now wears a deserted look. Abandoned to the vagaries of time and terrorism, a memorial to a not-so-distant era. Lakshman finally shifted back to Namchibal in 1926. It was a two-story house that his father built for him near his factory. It was here that he studied under Pandit Maheshwar Nath Razdan, Sanskrit grammar and texts of Kashmir Shaiv philosophy. Swamiji's scholarship had by now begun manifesting itself. In 1933, he wrote a book, The Geetarth Sangrah, on Abhinav Gupta's unique interpretation of the Bhagavad Gita.
Marble कारखानस पटाई शारिका देवी तो मालिस सत्या सिवान पालिंग मालिस सत्या सिवान पालिंग 10 वरिश कोर तमिस आज मस्जिद कन बेस फेरन सिगित इथे कन ओस दोहा इवान मालिस सत दोहा अभ्यास करित गसान.
Later one day, Swamiji took Sharika ji, soon to be his foremost disciple, to Hari Parbat. Pointing to the rocks there, he told her, "These are not mere rocks that you see over there. They are all divine beings, gods and goddesses." And when Sharika ji looked around, she had the vision of all those divine beings. After nearly 7 years, Swami Lakshman Ji left Namchibal in 1934 for the more serene Ishwar Hills. Situated near the side of a murmuring stream, the peace and tranquility of the place was a far cry from the hustle and bustle of his earlier habitat. The ashram too, with its sprawling orchards, abundance of trees, lush green lawns, and rows of multi-hued flowers, completed the picture of self-sufficiency Swamiji had envisioned for the place. Sharika Devi too moved into a house adjacent to the ashram. Like her guru, she too had decided to remain celibate all her life. She was soon joined by her younger sister, Prabhaji, into Swamiji's fold.
फिर सबसे पहले उन्होंने मुझे गीतार्थ संग्रह का पाठ करा. पहले शाम पंचाशी का पढ़ाई, उसका उन्होंने कश्मीरी में अनुवाद करके पढ़ाते थे। हम ऊपर के आश्रम में रहते थे, यहाँ से वो 2-2.5 मील की ऊंचाई पर है। हमारा अपना मकान भी था। हम सुबह 4 बजे उनके पास जाया करते थे पढ़ने के लिए। 4 बजे से 6 बजे तक तंत्रा लोग पढ़ते थे। उसके बाद थोड़ा सा अभ्यास करते थे। उसके बाद फिर कहते जाओ तुम, अब हम अपना काम करेंगे, तुम अपना काम करो।
In 1940, an event of great significance occurred in Swamiji's life. While visiting his old ashram at Namchibal, he experienced the Shat Chakra Bhedan, the piercing of the 6 wheels, the highest experience a yogic aspirant can hope to achieve. By now, the fusion of the saint and scholar in Swamiji gave a mature poise to his personality. Ungrudgingly, he started revealing to the multitudes pouring in the secrets of the most sacred of non-dual Shaiv texts.
तत्र प्रथमं नरेश्वर वेदवादि प्रातिपक्षेन चैतन्य परमार्थता शिव एव विश्वस्य आत्मा इति आदिश्यति. He exposes here that the reality of universe is real self, and the sutra is Chaitanyam Atma. The supreme consciousness is the reality of everything. Niji Shakti Vai Bhavubarat Anduchatushtayam Yidam Vibhagenam Shakti Hirmaya Prakriti Prithvi Jeti Prabhavidam Prabhonam. Prabhu, now Lord Shiva has Prabhavitam created. Four andas, 4 circles of this universe. Shaktand, Mayand, Prakritand and Prithvyand. The 5th is Shanta Kala. Nivritti Kala, Pratisha Kala, Vidya Kala and Shanta Kala. 5th is Shanta Cheta Kala. In Shanta Cheta Kala, there are no worlds. Shanta Chita Tabhavaneva. Shanta Chita Kala is without any world. There is no world, there is only glamour of Lord Shiva.
It wasn't too long before his parents, Pandit Narayan Das and Arnimal, came to live with him. With old age catching up, they needed someone who would look after them with care.
I cannot imagine anybody serving his parents like that. I still remember he would not allow any nurse to come anywhere near my grandmother, but I remember him. He would do everything for them. He would give them a bath. They were almost, crippled and bedridden, but he would do everything.
Despite all his efforts, his mother passed away after a brief illness in June 1947. This was followed by his father's demise in January 1948. It seemed like a period of bereavement for Swamiji, for it was only a few years earlier in 1943 that his guru Swami Mehtab Kak had attained Mahasamadhi. And for all his yogic equipoise, Swami Lakshman Ji for once felt deeply sad. As the crowd of devotees began swelling, Swamiji shifted to a newly constructed ashram in 1959 that was more accessible to his devotees. Located on the Zabarwan foothills, the ashram complex soon became the new Ishwar Ashram, a title derived from the name Ishwar Swarup given to Swamiji by Sharika Devi. This is a video recording of the temple Swamiji established within the ashram in 1984. The shrine is dedicated to Amriteshwar Bhairav, the deity who showers upon his devotees the bliss of Samavesh or absorption. Swamiji himself directed and participated in every ritual of its consecration, including the installation of the holy lingam. A favorite haunt of Swamiji's was this wooden pavilion that he frequented in the afternoons. It was here that he usually sat in meditation. Another wooden structure Swamiji built in the late 80s was the Parabhairav Dham, or Throne of Parabhairav. The spiritual aura of Swamiji can still be felt years later in his ashram and the house he inhabited. One can still picture Swamiji in this room in the midst of all his spiritual contemplations. The satsang hall near the entrance of the ashram was another important addition created to receive various scholars and foreign devotees. And while the Havanshala and the illustrations are of more recent origin, it still reverberates with the mantras of oblations on special occasions. As the mystique of Swamiji's spirituality gradually spread, he began in his quest to engage the celebrated saints and scholars of the era. It was in his early 20s that Brahmachari Lakshman met Maharshi Raman, the sage of Arunachalam. It was also around this time that he met the great yogi Shri Aurobindo at Pondicherry. In 1968, Maharshi Mahesh Yogi and his retinue of followers called on Swamiji. So impressed was the Maharshi that he made it a point to meet Swamiji the following year to understand the mysteries of the Shaiv texts. It was these meetings that inspired the Maharshi's disciples like John and Dennis Hughes, and later George Barcelar, to devote themselves completely to the study of Shaiv thought and philosophy. Among the other spiritual leaders he was intimate with were Shri Bal Krishan Das, a much revered saint of Vrindavan, Swami Ranganathananda of the Ramakrishna Mission, and Swami Muktanand Paramhans of the Siddha Yog Peeth. Rishikesh, on the swerving banks of the Ganga, was one of Swamiji's favorite retreats. Here, during one of his visits, he met one of the most dynamic spiritual leaders of the time, Swami Shivanand, founder of the Divine Life Society. The society had for its aim the service of humanity as the service of God. In keeping with the spirit of the place, Swamiji nursed leprosy patients in the society. Not surprisingly, Swami Shivanand would often call Swamiji the Lion of Kashmir Shaivism. Swamiji had set in motion a great renaissance of the non-dual tradition of Kashmir Shaivism. And this extraordinary phenomenon was gaining momentum through his Sunday classes and discourses. His mastery over the Sanskrit language and vast knowledge of the sacred Kashmir Shaiv texts drew seekers in ever-increasing numbers. Most importantly, his interpretation of the inner meanings and his unique experience of living the truths contained in them made him the most authentic voice of Kashmir Shaivism. Which brings us to the point. Was Swami Ramju aware of the role his grand disciple was to play in the spread of Kashmir Shaivism?
It's interesting to note that Swami Ram had a clear picture of the vision of Kashmir Shaivism for the future. I've been told that it was Swami Ram who requested the then Maharaja, Pratap Singh, to form a research institute, to collect all the material of Kashmir Shaivism, collect all the different manuscripts, go from house to house, and have this all under one roof. And that started in late 1800s. But he knew Swamiji's future. He made it very clear that Swamiji would be a great Shaivacharya. And his previous request to the Maharaja, Pratap Singh, found its fulfillment when Swamiji was 16 or 17 years old, and he now wanted to study Shaiva literature. It was all there. This is the insight of Swami Ram, Swamiji's grand master.
And not only did he read these scriptures, he lived them in his day-to-day life, and he demonstrated them. He was not a mere armchair philosopher to read books and go in for discussions with great scholars.
It was said that in 1957 or 58, devotees approached Swamiji and asked him to write a booklet on Krama system. Krama system deals with the aspect of Kalis, 12 Kalis, which is unique to Kashmir Shaivism. Swamiji was reluctant to give this knowledge out because it was from the Krama system, which is a system handed down by word of mouth. But somehow fearing that it would be lost, he assented to their request and produced a booklet.
Swamiji's scholarly interest had by now surfaced in the Hindi translation of Kramanai Pradipika in 1958 and his commentary on Utpal Dev's Shiv Stotravali, published in 1964.
Swamiji had a unique way of explaining any of the literature of Kashmir Shaivism, and he always spoke from a level of authority, real authority, on the particular text that he was working. For instance, once he was translating a verse from Shiva Stotravali, and a scholar pointed out that this translation differed quite significantly from Kemraja's own commentary. Swamiji simply, with great command, said, "Just listen to my words, because I have entered the heart of Utpaladeva." And this was true of Swamiji no matter which text he was working on, but particularly the Shiva Stotravali, where some of the verses would be so emotional for Swamiji that he himself would have tears rolling as he explained the profoundness of that text.
Another notable thing about recitation of Shiva Stotravali, or for the matter of that, any other book, was that he would say that if you don't get that strike, if it doesn't strike the chord of your love, try some other rag, and he used to suggest that do it in Yogya, do it in such and such rag, Bhairav, till it would really make a person cry. And he would say that till then you should keep on changing different tunes, different rhymes, so that tears gush out.
Interestingly, It was in Varanasi, the abode of Lord Shiv, where Swamiji's genius was acknowledged for the first time outside the valley. Participating at the All India Tantra Mahasammelan in the Sampurnanand Sanskrit University, his paper on Kundalini Vigyan Rahasyam created quite an impact. The entire intellectual circle of Varanasi was amazed and enthralled by the depth of Swamiji's knowledge. In fact, an honorary degree of D.Litt was conferred on Swamiji by the organizers of the Mahasammelan. His association with Varanasi deepened further with his relationship to Acharya Rameshwar Jha, himself a scholar of great reputation. The great scholar Thakur Jaydev Singh was another who acknowledged his indebtedness to Swamiji in all his translations of Kashmir Shaiv texts.
और इसके बाद मैंने तंत्रसार लिखा। तो तंत्रसार लिखने के बाद भी मेरे अंदर ये एक तर्क था, एक आंतरिक जिज्ञासा थी कि किसी महापुरुष से इसको प्रमाणित होना चाहिए। इस जिज्ञासा के अनुसार मैं उन्हीं के शिष्य श्री रामेश्वर झा नाम के यहाँ विद्वान थे, उनसे जाके मिला। उन्होंने ही ये कहा था कि इस विषय के एक ईश्वर स्वरूप विद्वान, साक्षात शिव स्वरूप कश्मीर में रहते हैं, आप उनसे मिल सकते हैं। तंत्रसार जिस समय मैंने उनको उनके कर कमलों में रखा, उसी समय वो देख करके प्रसन्न हो गए। इतनी प्रसन्नता उनके चेहरे पर आई, उन्होंने हमारी तरफ देखा और जैसे लगता था कि कोई ऐसा आकर्षण, अलौकिक आकर्षण हम दोनों में हो गया है। मैं उनके चरणों में गिर पड़ा, उन्होंने हमारे सिर पर हाथ रखा। मैंने फिर तंत्रालोक को जो लिखा तो एक पर एक, एक पर एक, एक पर एक, संस्कृत यूनिवर्सिटी के लोग आश्चर्यचकित रहते थे।
The image of the relatively unknown brahmachari had by now metamorphosized into that of Swami Lakshman Ji, the greatest living master of both textual and oral traditions of non-dual Shaivism of Kashmir. Among the many serious academicians who made a beeline to his ashram was the distinguished Tantra scholar Lillian Silburn. She was accompanied by the great French scholar Andrepado, for whom Swamiji was the last depository of the teaching of Trika, as it was transmitted from master to disciple for centuries.
Well, I first heard about Swamiji in the early 70s because I began studying Kashmiri Shaivism in 1970 in Benares. He gave me initiation. I was not feeling very well then. I was mentally very disturbed, very, very disturbed. I was working very, very hard. That put me under tremendous mental pressure. But Swamiji, I think what he wanted me to see was that liberation is a reality. So for this, to say I'm grateful to Swamiji would be saying very little. Well, all the books I wrote up to 92 were all the result of Swamiji's inspiration. I wrote about Spanda and the Spanda Karika and the Shiva Sutra, and these I read with Swamiji, or I listened to recordings. But it was his spirituality. And it's the authenticity of that which was important for me.
Swamiji's greatest contribution was to interpret the Kashmir Shaivite text to people not necessarily of scholarly disposition. His important works include commentaries on the Shiv Sutra and Vigyan Bhairav, and his discourses and writings on various aspects of Kashmir Shaivism. His other notable contributions were Kashmir Shaivism, the Secret Supreme, and his translations of the Tantra Lok. His incomplete manuscript on the Trika philosophy has now been brought out by the Ishwar Ashram Trust in Swamiji's own calligraphic hand.
Well, the first time we heard Swamiji lecture on Kashmir Shaivism was when we came in 1971, and there was just John and I and Shauna. So we would sit in the hall. It was his first hall. It was a tiny little hall, but very cozy and warm. It was all mudded and had beautiful pictures of saints and gods and goddesses on the wall. And John took out his tape recorder and Swamiji began to lecture. And it was just beautiful. These were things, these were concepts that I never knew existed, never could have imagined existed, and they were just engrossing.
In the beginning, he gave us a series of lectures on the important points of Shaivism, and I said, I'm going to teach you the important points of Shaivism. And basically, he took and he revealed and unfolded, not many of this is what people would say are secret teachings, or secret teachings that are really only known by someone who has actually lived the tradition. And I realized after I've been there some time that his tradition and his way of teaching was not to give lectures in a sense of, but to base his understanding and revelation on scripture that was already revealed, and so. And we have over 500 hours of revelations, I call them, that he gave us. Because they're not just strict translations in the sense you think of that, where he's actually revealing the text. He'll take the verse or whatever it is, and then he expounds on it and expands it and brings it home, as I would say. And so we had over 500 hours of these revelations, and more than half of those are on Tataloka.
Alice Christensen was another disciple who did yeoman service in bringing out Swamiji's teachings. She video recorded her interviews with him about his life, thoughts and beliefs over a decade. A lasting treasure for all those interested in Swamiji's teachings.
The ultimate point.
Yes, the
ultimate point is thoughtless point.
Is thoughtlessness.
Yes.
Is thoughtlessness.
You have to tread on the path of thought towards thoughtless point. So it means that this whole universe is without thought.
Well,
in fact, if we try to realize it, it will be thoughtless. It is not. Nothing is in movement. Although everything is in movement.
It seems to be.
But it is not moving.
The Gupta Ganga Srinagar was another venue for Swamiji's weekly discourses. It was under the Dharmarth Trust, headed by Dr. Karan Singh, that the complex became an important center for various seminars on Kashmir Shaivism. In fact, Swamiji's famous talk on meditative practices and spiritual discipline was delivered here.
In 1987, I went for a seminar on Kashmir Shaivism that was conducted sponsored by ICPR at that time. And now, as a member of the delegation, all the scholars, and particularly Professor Daya Krishna, In fact, Professor Daya Krishna belongs to a particular line of thinking. I mean, he views everything rationally. So, along with him, all the delegates went to Swamiji and we had a discussion, and then certain questions were placed. Main speaker was Daya Krishna ji and Swamiji. So, naturally, then on rationalism, he put some questions, and on mystic experiences. But it was a very nice gathering. We remained there for about 2 hours, talked to Swamiji. In fact, his works have been main source of inspiration. And number 2, his following all over the India and his following even beyond the frontiers of the country, and particularly his companionship with Acharya Lakshman, Rameshwar Jha, these things inspired me.
Like Abhinav Gupta, some of the earlier followers of Swamiji were his closest kin. His transformation from Lal Sahib, the respected elder, to Swamiji, and how they became his ardent devotees is an interesting chapter in their lives.
हमारे घर में उनकी काफ़ी मानता रही है. इनिशियली फैमिली वाज टुगेदर, उसका हमको खास ख्याल नहीं है. बट हमारे जो ग्रैंडफादर थे, उन्होंने अपने व्हेन ही वाज लिविंग, उन्होंने अलग अलग इनको कर दिया था. तो इसलिए 2 घर थे और एक स्वामी जी का आश्रम था. हमें ये खाली ये फीलिंग थी कि जी स्वामी जी के पास जाना है. स्वामी जी जैसे मेरी बहन ने कहा है, मतलब हम उनको लाल साहब के नाम से ही जानते थे और पुकारते थे भी.
इसलिए ये 3-4 बच्चे आसान तो सोइस घरस मज हुंदू एटमॉस्फेयर 4 घंटन आसान बेस तूत तुंद इज्जत डर तो एनवायरमेंट बसान इल्यूम गोमुतन इसका इल्यूमिनेशन गसान मनस मजन या ज्वाइल हिश
शुरू मज बसान कि स्वामी जी मतलब सपोज इज माई अंकल या गरुक सदस्य या बे कह. But by the passage of the time, maturity आई बासो पे ना 2 years relation relation develop करनी as guru and all that.
His father was also saint. I personally think my grandfather Narayan Das was equally a great saint, and I used to tell him that. I used to talk to him about this, and I said he was a great saint because he, Kak as we used to call him, he used to bow before his son. And I used to ask my grandfather, what a funny thing, you bow before your son? Who is he? As a child, I remember I was 5-year-old child. He says, no, he is no longer just a child, my son. He is a great scholar. He has learned. He is very near God. He is an emergent and evolving saint.
असली जो मेरी पर्सनल एक्सपीरियंस है, मुझे इस बात का एहसास उनकी महानता का तब हुआ जब महर्षि महेश योगी कश्मीर आए. तो हम गाड़ी में बैठे थे, महर्षि जी और वो जो मेरे दोस्त वो चला रहे थे. तो उन्होंने मेरे दोस्त ने उनसे कहा कि ये स्वामी जी के भाई के लड़के हैं. तो उन्होंने मेरी तरफ थोड़ा सा गौर से देख के कहा कि आप स्वामी जी को जानते हैं? तो मेरे जवाब देने से पहले उन्होंने कहा कि आपको, हम सबको और सारी दुनिया को इस बात का फ़ख्र होना चाहिए कि स्वामी जी जैसे व्यक्ति ने इस दुनिया में जन्म लिया है.
Gradually, all the family members realized the greatness of Lal Sahib and sought refuge in his feet. He in turn instructed them in the Kashmir Shaiv lore, gave them initiation, and set them on the spiritual path. In the beginning, it was only a small group of pupils. Samvid Prakash Dhar, one of Swamiji's senior disciples, has this interesting anecdote to narrate.
Which he used to teach among 5 or 6 students of his, Janakinath Ji Labru, Janakinath Patwari, Jagannath Patwari, Nilkant Ji Bakaya, Amra, Arjanath Haswal, and Ramju Ban. So when I told Swamiji that, sir, will you give me an opportunity to regularly attend these lectures, he said, you will not understand. But you do come and prepare tea for us, and that will be your assignment. But I used to see Swamiji would often during those lectures go into raptures repeatedly. He would laugh and weep simultaneously. After he would recite a shloka or explain in the middle of explanation, he would get so much ecstasy.
Gora wonu ake atvari, pat wonu be at. Yota maharabam heri vestis kalas. Ekis various chus ba atvaran khasani hor. I would go to every Sunday to Swamiji. Ye mannoy met. Mish pata zara ish kya tha na. He would just see whether he is inclined, whether he is actually particular about this thing or not. You must bole amud mein mazaka karne.
Swamiji would always take care of his disciples, and I must say even today he takes care of his disciples. I must personally say that whenever I have had problems, I have never mentioned to him. But it somehow so happened that he would realize that he is having a problem, and he would solve the problem, resolve the problems.
A special day when Swamiji made himself accessible to his devotees was his birthday. Though initially a private affair, it later became a festive occasion for thousands to participate in. This video recording, for instance, captures the devotional fervor his devotees felt for him. Swamiji would sit Shiv-like in Samadhi for a few hours, and it was pure bliss for the assembled to see him emerge from his trance. Perhaps the only rule he followed on such occasions was never to take any gifts. Worshipping relics, he felt, was not a Shaiv tradition. But the one day he did bend the rules was the Mahasamadhi of Swami Mehtab Kak. Swamiji would on that day accept token offerings from his followers. A large number of people would be fed, and at the end of the fire sacrifice, his Guru's blessings would be passed on to the assembled. It was clear that the relationship Swamiji shared with his followers was one of deep compassion and love.
To me, it appeared that Swamiji loved me so much and he wants me so much. But I found that probably A, B or C had the same feeling about Swamiji. He would give that feeling to every one of his devotees, that I need you, I love you, and you come to me.
Everybody, every one of his devotees who came across him, they felt that he has a special corner for me. Like I also kept on thinking for a very long time that he has a special corner for me because I am, Mr. S.P. Dhar's daughter-in-law. But over the years then I found, and when I came in contact with other people whom he knew, and especially after he passed away, that everybody felt the same thing.
There are many anecdotes of how Swamiji sometimes helped, guided, or surprised his devotees, but in a manner that no one could ever know.
महाराज लॉकड़ हिउ लड़के सोस वाले वारा लॉकड़ तम सोस लक्चार ये तो जाव जान पता उस तरह बीमार पहन रोजान तो वो शो जाते गांधीनगर छेमस नबनित लक्ष्मण निवास मामा जी बेस मामा जी सुन घर तो तज महाराज ऐसे बिहित अमिस महाराज गो मेनस लड़कस ऐसे गो मे लड़कस मुश ऐसे मुशस गोमुत अमिस पोलियो ड्राप्स दिनस तो अमिस महाराज गो पोलियो महाराज जंगन गो अमिस यो सांग लत लिथलावान जंग वो महाराज छुस बह अत बिहित समिजस नश यह महाराज मेन जनान बड़े वदान दपान वो क्या बन मस है पुशर भगवान वो यह किस्मत ती वह अत क्या कर सोचन यह महाराज गो यह मोन लड़की बड़े शक्ल जरा खूबसूरत में मस वस जरा झूठ पान तिम जर कस कर यह गो खोकस करान जंगल लिफान समिजस नश ब्यूल अमिस अत तख्त वुचस करनस थप दोनस यह उर्दू बड़ बोलान हिंदी बड़ दोनों स्वामी जी मुझे ठीक करो ना स्वामी जी वो दोपन हे यह कौन सुंद लड़कु हे यह क्यों वन मुझे ठीक अमिस क्या दलील अमिस यह महाराज मोन लड़का अत महाराज महाराज रचना इतने प्रॉब्लम गमत क्या महाराज भगवान कर सोरे ठीक दोप ना अमिस क्या पुन अमिस अत डॉक्टर कुमार दोपस क्यों दलील महाराज इत गोमुत अत प्रॉब्लम महाराज लोम अमिस नरन दोन खोरन पानस सोर तख्त पोशस पे दोपन ना कहीं अमिस कोर कठन दोन कर अमिस थे थप हिश दोपस गस यह महाराज वोत और बोन यह महाराज आव और पकान योर महाराज वो जंगल लिफान ग और महाराज आव यह पकान बे महाराज तिथ पे कि कंसी लग पता यह क्या कोर
यमिस मे डिफिकल्टी क्या आई मे वुच अक दोहन शुस बस परेशान मे क्या शुरन वुरन हज परेशानी सेहतन हज मे हद मे महाराज वुच सोबरस मज अमिस पे वन दपान मेन चिठ वाते तथ वो मोन फोटोग्राफ सू ब्रो कन थवान जान सै बु तत पत वुच मे वो बचन दोमक तो वुच चिठ मा स्वामी जी दोन दोहन मा वाते तमी दोस मे सोपन वुचमुत अखर अनिमो अक दोहन सो मुसराय मे तथ मज यमो चिठ लिचम मे सोपनस मज वुच ती जवाब पत कोर तमो टेलीफोन ते मे से वाचे सो मे चिठ मे दोक आह महाराज मे होत वातन वात दोक आह मे सोपन वुचमुत वो आह मे सूज मे तवे सूजना मे यह चिठ.
An even stranger incident was the one George Baslar experienced at the ashram while he was sleeping.
I must have fallen asleep. Then suddenly I heard Swamiji's voice, "George, get up!" Very loud. I woke, immediately startled, and the congri had spilled. It had burned a hole in my mattress. There was already a hole in my shirt, and my skin was red but not sore. The room was full of smoke. So after I had gotten rid of all the smoke, opened the windows, let the place air out, I went down and thought I should go to the ashram and see what Swamiji wants. After all, he must have called me from the window. As I walked back to the ashram gate, I noticed that there were no fresh tracks in the snow. When I arrived in the ashram, the two ladies were sitting on the veranda, and I asked, had Swamiji called me? They said, no, he's been in his room ever since you left after lunch. So I went back, and then at 4 o'clock, I got the call to come for tea. When we sat for tea, Swamiji sat there casually. We had tea. There was no discussion. But at the end, he said, "George, do you have enough coal for your congri?" And I said, "Yes, sir, I do." He said, "Very good." He said, "This congri," he said, "it's very good, you know, but it can be a blessing, can also be a curse."
Swamiji would often take his devotees to various places of pilgrimage and scenic beauty. The aim was to acquaint them with the sacred geography of the valley and other places of Hindu pilgrimage.
In 1968 में उन्होंने कहा कि हम अमरनाथ जी की यात्रा करेंगे. अमरनाथ की यात्रा करने के लिए अच्छा जी जो आना चाहता है वो जाएंगे. वी विल गो इन अ ग्रुप. यू विल नॉट बिलीव इट, 68 था और 68 ही आदमी थे who joined this group. And we had the privilege of going with Swamiji that time.
Swamiji's great love for the environment was there for all to see. He saw divinity in nature and all its creations. Most importantly, he abhorred the senseless slaughter of animals for food and encouraged his followers to travel the countryside. Swamiji's love of nature had in fact much to do with the profound aesthetic sense he possessed. He loved all beautiful things as manifestations of the divine. That is how he loved music and even appreciated art. After all, communion with the serene and calm, he felt, was like communion with God.
चक्कर करने गसान तथ लचि कुन तथ लट पहाड़स तौर कुन तत शीनस पे शीन प्योमुत और योर कर घंटे 2 घंटे वापस।
स्वामी जी आते थे हर साल ड्यूरिंग विंटर मंथ्स आते थे, 2-3 महीने के लिए यहाँ जम्मू आते थे। तो जम्मू से हर मतलब जितने भी हमारे स्वामी जी के डिसाइपल्स थे, डिवोटीज थे, वो किसी संडे को वो करते थे या कोई प्रोग्राम किसी दिन बनाते थे, तो सबों को यहाँ अपने डिवोटीज को यहाँ लाते थे। मानसर का जो वातावरण है बहुत ही शांत है। हर एक एरिया से आप देख लीजिए यहाँ पर कितनी मन की शांति मिलती है। अगर आप बैठेंगे किसी भी जगह बहुत ही शांति मिलती है हर। अच्छा, उसके साथ जिस वक्त आप मंत्रों का उच्चारण भी करेंगे तो ये सारा चार्ज हो जाता है, वाइब्रेट हो जाता है सारा एटमॉस्फेयर यहाँ पर। नंबर 2, आप देखेंगे हमारे पास कुछ ऐसे भी फोटोग्राफर स्वामी जी के उस वक्त के, किसी अगर कि उनको कोई फॉरवर्ड लिखना होता था, किसी का मतलब कोई पब्लिकेशन करनी होती थी, वो यहाँ आकर यहाँ पर उन्होंने फॉरवर्ड कुछ किताबों के लिखे यहाँ बैठकर, और कहते भी थे कि मैं श्रीनगर में भी मतलब आश्रम में मैंने शुरू किया है, उसके बाद मुझे ख्याल था जम्मू में आकर ये इसको लेकिन मैं नहीं लिख सका, लेकिन यहाँ आकर मुझे ये देख लीजिए यहाँ पर कितना इसका इस जगह का कितना मतलब महत्व है, और यहाँ पर आकर मैंने ये फॉरवर्ड लिखे।
While Swamiji unraveled the mysteries of the sacred scriptures, he always emphasized the importance of practice. Shaivism, he pointed out, is not mere augmentation or intellection, but a system of meditative techniques and discipline developed over the centuries. Perhaps the greatest gift he gave his seekers was to fill the inner depth of their beings, to transfer to them the visions of divinity at the deepest levels of their consciousness.
Bumara votus gar yuthi me shaunus bata kyo kaf baje samjish me dunya haun kya yim gods che yim sain devta che gods che tim mara me indian gat karan samji timon control kay
बटवार दो हम सेक्युलर्जनस मज रोजान मन ट्यूसडे मॉर्निंग सुबह तम नेरान 7 बजे हूँ तम सात ये सात तम बेल करान अंदर अचान अख मारा तिहुंद रूप आसान साक्षात शिव बिल्कुल यथ पे शिवस रूप तिथे पे तथ कमरस मज मारा प्रकाश आसान सह मे लट अनुभव कोर्मुत खास कर अमी दो ट्यूसडे दो यम दो तम सुबह दरवाज खोलान तम दो वुचान
I could not do anything, just to see in his eyes. I saw nothing but his eyes. His eyes were like two oceans, and I felt
kind of drowned in the depth of that ocean, fathomless. I forgot myself, I forgot my personality, I forgot that I am one, I was lost.
Just as the renaissance of Kashmir Shaivism was gaining momentum, terrorism erupted in the valley in all its gruesomeness. Genocidal attacks by the terrorists forced the Kashmiri Pandits to flee the valley. A saddened Swamiji frantically tried to dissuade them, but much against his wishes, they all left except a handful.
That time I was there, मैं वहीं था, बिल्कुल वहीं था. सुबह शाम दिन को रात को अक्सर मिलते थे. काफ़ी दुख था उनको इस बात का. वो चाहते थे कि जितने भी वहाँ लोग भाग रहे थे, निकल रहे थे घर छोड़ के, उनकी इच्छा नहीं थी कोई भी निकले. हर एक को उन्हें नसीहत की, मशवरा दिया कि वो नहीं जाए यहाँ से, वो काफ़ी तकलीफ में होंगे. इट विल टेक सम टाइम, वो अक्सर कहते थे उन दिनों की. लेकिन कश्मीर जैसी जगह, पीसफुल जगह, अच्छी जगह नहीं हो सकती है सारे हिंदुस्तान में.
I don't know of any other master who, during such a period of time, when there's literally a war going on around you and militancy, and he stayed right there in the heart of it and conducted all his spiritual goings on. I'm not sure what the word is. I mean, he was an anchor. He was an anchor for Hindus there, and he definitely lived up to people's expectations of what a great master could do. I mean, he was fearless. I mean, there were stories of the military coming and saying, can we stay in the ashram, or we'd like to stay in the ashram, and him saying, he said, no, I don't need your protection. And they said, but we need your protection.
It was towards the end of the 80s that one witnessed a great change coming over Swamiji's mood. This was a time when he transcended the image people commonly had of him and entered what he called the Parabhairav state.
Swamiji at that time was in that ecstatic state. And so how he would dress, I think if people in India or even in Kashmir, his devotees who had been with him for a long time were to see that, would be surprised. He would wear clothes, whatever clothes he wanted to wear, So it could be like tight spandex type, real tight things which he would never wear here, he did there. In terms of experimenting and trying foods, he would ask for all kinds of different foods. One that comes to mind is, he said one day that he wanted popcorn halwa.
Swamiji was in the ecstatic Parabhairav state when he visited Nepal in 1990. It was a very different Swamiji that his devotees now began to witness. He dressed strangely, became quite unpredictable, and ate irregularly, sometimes not eating at all. Traveling around the city, he visited the famous Pashupatinath temple. In Nepal, he delivered a series of lectures on Kashmir Shaivism in 1988-89.
Avratam jnanametena jnanino nityavairinam kamarupena kaunteya dushpurena nalena cham. This is nityavairana, eternal enemy of
Swamiji continued to remain in this very mood, when his principal disciple Sharika Devi passed away on February 1991.
Immediately after the demise of Sharika Devi, Swamiji undertook a journey to Haridwar for immersion of her ashes. He was a little bit grieved also because he had lost hold of a very good, well-qualified disciple. He was somewhat upset with that.
What is little known is that it was only at this stage that Swamiji finally took sannyas at the hands of a Mahamandaleshwar sadhu.
At the end of the Havan ceremony and this initiation into sannyas, Swamiji gave him a bow, and Mahamandaleshwar told him that now comes the turn, now that I have initiated you into sannyas, you have to give me adequate dakshina for that. Swamiji took out a bundle of fresh notes, probably a lot of it must have been about 10,000 rupees, which he offered him. And the Mahamandaleshwar turned it down. He said, no, I do not want this kind of dakshina. Dakshina I want from you is that give me instant liberation. So Swamiji had a hearty laughter. He said, how can I do that? It's not such a common thing or such an ordinary thing. He said, no, you have already agreed to give me dakshina, and I want my dakshina only in that form and nothing short of that. And both of Swamiji accepted. He said, okay, you are liberated in life now, from now onwards. And the two became very ecstatic about it, and they started dancing, and they recited one of the lines, Om Namah Shivaya Shashvatai Shankarai Shambhave.
Soon after consigning Sharika Devi's ashes in the Ganga at Haridwar, Swamiji left for America in March 1991.
Interesting that transition time. I was in the U.S. when that all happened. I remember because I was very fortunate that we talked on the phone, and it's not easy to talk to somebody in India, especially in those days even. But we would talk almost weekly, and I remember one day he called and he says, oh, I want you to know I'm no longer Lakshman Jew. I'm Parabhairava. I said, what, sir, what? He was cosmic. I mean, he was always cosmic, but he wanted to re-reveal it. It's like he had a different like even a more holistic and universal understanding. And he talked at one point also the fact that he said, in my life I realized, I had to try everything. I had to do every kind of practice to experience experience of God consciousness through all different avenues and all different ways. And he says, I don't want you to think I'm bragging, I said, then he got embarrassed, because he was like very shy that way. He said, but I've experienced everything.
In America, Swamiji performed a yajna in Los Angeles that had witnessed a severe drought for 5 years. And interestingly, the long dry spell was broken by a downpour which broke all existing records. But all was not well with Swamiji. Though physically unwell, he looked quite healthy and dynamic.
Yeah, just in terms of his physical, condition and stuff, that he, I'm sure, we would hear that, okay, Swamiji was not feeling well, he was taken to the doctors and stuff. But Swamiji was in so much control of his physical form that it was hard for us to see exactly. And Swamiji would not always, to him, what was happening to his body was, I think he was, as we all know, that he was, above that.
When Swamiji returned from America, he alighted from the plane in a wheelchair. Everyone was taken aback, quite shocked to see him in that state. Swami Lakshman spent the last days at Noida in great physical pain. Yet his face continued to glow. And though he had already withdrawn from the outside world, his mind seemed as alert as before.
I was making inquiries as to where he was, and ultimately I was told that he was ill. He was very ill and he was in Noida. So I drove to see him. So there was some bhasma there. I took some bhasma and I made a tilak on his forehead. And by Lord Shiva's grace, early next morning, 4 o'clock, he left the body.
Early in the morning of September 27, 1991, Swami Lakshman attained Mahasamadhi and became one with Param Shiva. When his earthly existence came to an end, his seekers came in surging numbers to pay the last respects to their dear departed Guru. In life, Swamiji's unprecedented contribution was to revive the almost forgotten vision of Kashmir Shaivism. Let us hope that in his death, he will continue to guide us in the light of the wisdom he radiated.
तस्दीर में उन्होंने बिल्कुल क्लियर कट जो इंस्ट्रक्शंस हैं वो दी है। तो उसमें मेन जो रोल है ट्रस्ट का वो यही है कि जो प्रोपगेशन होनी चाहिए अबाउट दिस कश्मीर शैवा फिलॉसफी, दैट शुड बी आवर प्रायोरिटी। और दूसरा उन्होंने ये कहा है कि ये जो डिसिप्लिन है, discipline has to be maintained at all costs। और तीसरी बात ये कही है कि that the trust is supposed to carry all disciples, devotees as far as possible together.
Today, the Ishwar Ashram Trust runs centers at Srinagar, Jammu and Delhi. The satsang hall still resonates with devotional hymns and sacred chants. Puja is still performed regularly as it was during Swamiji's time, with strict adherence to discipline and traditions. A number of seminars were also held on Kashmir Shaivism as a part of the late Master's birth centenary celebrations. A Shivalingam was also installed at the Amriteshwar Bhairav temple in Delhi, reminiscent of another installation, another era. The seekers' tribute to the Swamiji they loved and the philosophy they embraced.
Thank you.